In a small town in Poland, a structure once stood that dwarfed nearly everything humans had ever built, a towering 2,120 feet into the sky. The Warsaw Radio Mast was the tallest structure in the world from 1974 until its collapse in 1991. While not a famous landmark or a glamorous skyscraper, this immense mast shaped communication on a global scale. Yet today, few outside of Poland even know of its existence. Join us as we explore the story of the Warsaw Radio Mast, its grand creation, towering height, and catastrophic collapse. In the early 1970s, Poland was at the heart of a major broadcasting mission. The country's leaders sought to build a radio transmitter powerful enough to reach far corners of the globe, from Antarctica to North America. Construction began in 1969, and by 1974, the Warsaw Radio Mast was operational. Designed by Jan Pollock, this towering steel giant was built near Gabin, Poland, strategically located for its high soil conductivity. It replaced the aging Razin transmitter, and thanks to its massive height and cutting-edge technology, it could transmit signals to nearly any part of the planet. At 2,120 feet, the Warsaw Radio Mast was an extraordinary feat of engineering, standing as the tallest man-made structure on Earth for 17 years. To truly appreciate its size, let's compare it to some of the world's most iconic buildings and structures. Imagine standing at the base of the Eiffel Tower in Paris, a towering structure that reaches 1,083 feet into the sky. Now double that height, and you'll still have room to spare before reaching the top of the Warsaw Radio Mast. In fact, the mast stood over 60% taller than the Eiffel Tower, an incredible contrast that underscores just how massive it was. Even the famous Empire State Building in New York City, long regarded as a marvel of human construction, does not compare. The Empire State Building, including its antenna, reaches 1,454 feet. The Warsaw Radio Mast exceeded that by a staggering 666 feet, the equivalent of adding another skyscraper on top of the Empire State Building. It was massive. The collapse of the Warsaw Radio Mast on August 8, 1991 was a sudden and shocking event that marked the dramatic end of the world's tallest structure. What was intended to be a routine maintenance operation quickly spiraled into disaster, leading to the mast's catastrophic failure and total collapse. To understand how such a colossal structure standing 2,120 feet tall could come crashing to the ground in a matter of seconds, we must look at the chain of events that led to this fateful day. By the early 1990s, the Warsaw Radio Mast had been standing for over 17 years, broadcasting powerful radio signals across the globe. But it's about a 15-minute walk, and the radio tower used to be over there. Collapsed, and there's a cemetery next to it, so I think I might be able to find remains around the cemetery because the entrance from the main road is locked off. I just got like a 15-minute walk. However, like any structure of its size and complexity, the mast required constant maintenance, especially to its guy wires, the essential cables that supported its incredible height. These guy wires, attached at multiple points along the mast, kept it stable and prevented the structure from swaying or toppling. Over time, however, some of these wires had become worn and frayed, particularly in the upper sections, where the tension was highest and the effects of weathering were most severe. On the day of the collapse, workers were in the process of replacing one of the upper guy wires that had deteriorated. This delicate operation required disconnecting the main guy wire and temporarily securing the mast with two substitute wires. However, during the procedure, a critical mistake was made. Before the temporary wires could be fully secured, a sudden gust of wind hit the mast. With the main guy wire already disconnected, the mast was left vulnerable to the wind's forces. The gust caused the mast to twist and sway, placing enormous stress on the remaining support wires. Without proper stabilization, the tension on the other guy wires became too great. One by one, they began to snap under the strain, and within moments, the entire structure was compromised. The mast bent near its midpoint, unable to withstand the forces acting upon it, and then snapped in half. The top portion of the tower plummeted to the ground, followed by the lower sections, as the remaining guy wires gave way. In a matter of seconds, the world's tallest structure was reduced to a twisted heap of steel, scattered across the field where it once stood proudly. The collapse was a massive engineering failure, not just due to the immediate factors that caused the mast to fall, but also because of years of neglect and insufficient maintenance. In the years leading up to the collapse, inspections had revealed signs of wear and tear on both the structure and its supporting cables. Maintenance crews had struggled to keep up with the necessary repairs, and a shortage of proper equipment, funding, and resources meant that critical issues were often left unresolved. Adding to the mast's vulnerability was a lack of understanding about the structural stresses that a tower of such height could face. At the time of its construction, the Warsaw Radio Mast was an unprecedented project. While its design had been revolutionary, there were gaps in the knowledge about how to maintain and repair such a tall structure over the long term. For example, repainting the mast to protect it from corrosion had begun in 1988, but was never completed due to a lack of paint and funding. By 1991, the mast's condition had deteriorated to the point where even small errors in maintenance could have devastating consequences. And that is exactly what happened. After the collapse, an investigation was launched to determine who was responsible for the disaster. It was revealed that the construction foreman overseeing the guy wire replacement had failed to maintain a proper construction log, making it difficult to pinpoint exactly what went wrong. Nevertheless, the construction coordinator and the division chief of the company responsible for maintaining the mast were found liable for the collapse. Both were sentenced to 2.5 years in prison, though the construction manager's sentence was later reduced to 6 months. Fortunately, no one was killed or injured in the collapse. Though the Warsaw Radio Mast no longer stands, its legacy as a record-setting structure and a symbol of Poland's broadcasting ambitions endures. It served as a crucial tool in international communication for nearly 2 decades, proving the power of human ingenuity. Today, the site of the mast is a quiet place, visited occasionally by history enthusiasts and urban explorers, a reminder of a time when a towering steel giant connected Poland to the world.